Om Shanti. My name is Cody, and today we're going to work our way through some of the fundamentals, the mechanics of leg balancing, starting with a little bit of warm up, moving through some dissection of it, and into a bit of leg strengthening. Grab a mat, and let's get started. So to begin, we're gonna kind of just warm up the legs a little bit. So I want you to get seated with the legs along the mat and lean back into the hands a little bit. Just kind of close the eyes some while you get comfortable. Take a few deep breaths. And try to fully allow the legs to relax. Feeling no tension from the hips to the toes. And then just draw your awareness down to the toes. We're going to try to not move the ankles at all. I just want you to squeeze the toes and then spread them apart as much as you can. Just back and forth here a few times. Again, try to keep the rest of the legs relaxed. We're just focused on movements in the toes. And then draw that movement to the ankle as you point the toes and then flex the feet. Back and forth here. And then together the ankles roll one direction. And the other direction. And relax. Bounce the knees a little bit here. And then one after the other, I want you to draw the right heel in towards the hip and then send it out and switch over to the other side, just back and forth a few times. Here we're just focused on getting the knees moving just a little bit. And then the next time the right knee comes in towards the chest, I want you to grab hands around the back of the thigh and hug the knee close. And I want you to straighten the leg, and as you do this, squeeze the thigh muscle. So you kind of add some tension in the upper leg, and then relax as you bring it back in. Back and forth there a few times. And then relax, switch over to the other side. Straightening the leg, squeezing the thigh muscle, and then bring the heel back in. And relax. And then we're going to bring that right heel back in, drop the knee out to the side, bring it back to center, and then switch over. Starting to get the hip moving some. Okay, after you even things out, I want you to bring soles of both feet in. We'll sit up a little bit for some butterflies, bouncing the knees, opening up the chest. And then we relax, guide the knees back in, bring the heels a little bit away from each other, hands can drop back, and then windshield wiper the knees side to side. And then our final maneuver, we're going to bring the left ankle underneath the right thigh. And then from this position, I want you to lift the right leg up off the ankle and then bring it all the way around and land the shin on the ground, trying to sit upright. If you need to use the hands while you do this, please feel free. We're going to do about 5 of these, back and forward. As you're coming forward, try to lift the shin straight up off the ground first, and then swing it all the way around and forward. I have 2 more on this side. Last one. And then we'll switch. Lifting up, around and down. You might notice one side is going to be tighter than the other, and that is just fine. Just kind of give it what you got, trying to stay and honor that movement as we bring the leg forwards and backwards. And relax. Shake it out, and then we'll make your way up into a kneeling position. So from this, we're gonna go side to side and try to keep hands on the hips for this. I want you to hover the right knee off the ground, the right shin off the ground, and then rotate it so that you're coming all the way into a half kneeling position, and then back around, okay? And we'll switch side to side for this one. Here we're starting to feel a little bit of that balancing as we can feel the foot and the knee pressing into the ground as we switch side to side. Also getting the hip warmed up a little bit here. That was 3 for me on each side. I'm going to do 2 more on each. And relax. Let's land with the right foot forward. We're going to work on activating our right arch. So to do this, I almost want you to think about settling into that foot and then pull toe mound and heel towards each other, trying to lift the middle of the foot off the ground, squeezing for a moment, and then relaxing. Okay, squeeze and activate, hold, and relax. As you do this, you might be able to kind of sit back from the foot as you activate that front arch, feeling that squeeze and then release. And notice how the squeeze travels all the way up the leg, through the calf, the knee, into the thigh and hip. And then we'll relax. Hands on the hips if they're not already there. A little bit of pelvic tilt before we go over to the other side. So we're pressing the butt back as much as possible and then pulling the pelvis upwards. Back and forth here. Almost trying to seek out a stretch as the butt goes back, trying to seek out a stretch in that front hamstring. And as you pull the pelvis up, a stretch in the calf. Okay, we'll bring it back to center and switch over to the other side. Start with that arch activation, leaning close if you need to start, feeling everything squeeze in, hold and relax. Try to follow that sensation from the foot back to the hip. And then we'll relax. Hands on the hips for a bit of that pelvic tilt. Back and forth. Seeking out that sensation, a bit of a stretch in the hamstring, a bit of a stretch in the quad. And we'll relax. I'm going to turn sideways for this last one. So we're starting from our high kneeling position. We're going to bring the right foot forward and kind of drop into a lunge here as deep as it's comfortable for you. Coming back to your upright position, transition the foot to about 45 degrees and get a nice lunge into that maneuver and then out to the side for about 90, okay? We're going to go back and forth here. I'll do 3 times back and forth. So that was 1 at the 45, at the 90, at the 45, at the 0. One more time. 45, 90, 45, and 0. Relax, switch it back over, left side for 0, that 45, and the 90, the 45, the 0, the 45, the 90, 45, the 0. One more time. And land in that 0 and relax. All right, from here, I want you to come all the way up to standing. That's kind of the end of our warm-up. It'll continue a little bit as we start to work through some of the mechanics of building you to a balancing posture. So the first concept that I want to work into our body is the sense of push. When we are pushing off the ground, we're going to be stabilizing everything up through the rest of the body. So this force downwards through the feet becomes really integral to helping us stay within balance. Just so we understand where the weight of the body is, what should we be pushing into? When we think of the feet, we have 3 points: the heel, the big toe mound, and the small toe mound. And these create the 3 arches of the foot. And you'll notice that if we just build a Tadasana position, feet about hip width apart, and just kind of stand upright and let the eyes close here. And just start to feel a little bit of that shift as the weight of the body travels between those 6 points on both of the feet. You can kind of even press it into forwards and backwards and see how the body responds as you begin to shift through those arches. You can try to find stillness and stability. And then from here, I want us to really focus on the front arch. So this is big and small toe mound. So firmly find the feet into the ground. And then I just want you to start to lift the heels up and lower them back down. Just some calf raises here, pressing up and back down. And that press is happening as the foot really drives into the earth. And notice how the rest of the body shifts. As I come onto the toes, the body shifts just a little bit forward to help counteract that balance point, finding that center of gravity. If you want to from here, you can interlace the hands, try to reach up, pressing upwards, getting a little bit more activation. So we're getting press through the hands and press through the feet as we come into that calf raise position. We might find we want to hold it for just a little bit at the top. Press and hold and back in. And try to feel this press coming from the midpoint of the body. So if we have the hands reaching up and the toes pressing down, it's originating at both points from the core as it presses down and up. We'll do one more. Hold it a little bit if you'd like. Try to find that balance here. And notice even as you're up in that balance, the shift from the big and to the small toe mound and back. And relax. You can roll the ankles out a little bit. Okay. So next thing that we want to find is the other 2 arches, how they work in space. So I recommend finding a little bit of a split stance position here. So we'll start by having the left foot back and the right foot forward. Now, I like hands on the hips for this one, and lift the toes off the ground here. And then I want you to just shift from the outside of the foot to the inside of the foot. So from front on, it's out and in. As far as what's going on in the back leg, I'm not super concerned. If you're up on toe mounds, great. If the heel's on the ground, great. Just want you to feel that balance and the shift in the front leg. And notice as we shift side to side on the foot, it's not just happening at the ankle, it's traveling up to the knee and all the way to the hip socket. So this is our internal or our external rotation at the hip. So as the knee comes in, as we come to that big toe mound to heel, we're pulling through that internal rotation to stabilize. And then as we press out, we're getting some of that external rotation from small toe mound to heel as the hip opens out externally. So back and forth. Really try to follow this sensation back into the hip socket. Good. Let's relax. Move the foot a little bit, just kind of release any tension there. And then prep for the other side. Nice and stable. And just that shifting along those long edges, long arches on the outside and inside of the foot. So why this maneuver becomes important is really easy to see is if we get into a balancing position and we feel that we're constantly falling out in our balance or in with our balance, it means that we need to figure out how to apply that opposite force. So if we're falling out, we need to figure out how to press through the inside of the leg to bring it down to the ground. If we're falling inside, we need to feel how we press through the outside of the foot. So by accentuating this, we're really observing what's happening in the body. If you want to even travel beyond the hip, you can pull it back into the core. And we'll relax. Okay. So as we feel how to manipulate between those three arches, we can figure out where the push needs to happen. It's not a lot of times that we're coming up heels off the ground, but this is a really useful way for us to find balance. A lot of times we're going to find that this side to side action becomes the most important for us to maintain that balance, and really can help us unlock some of our balancing positions. So our last push that we're going to do is coming back into that split squat stance. Now this will be a little bit more intentional. I want the heel off the ground for this. So hands on the hips again, or out in space if you need that. We're not into the balancing portion quite yet. And I want you to kind of lower down a little bit and focus on the front foot. Drive through that right foot. And if you want, that foot can hover, the back foot can hover off the ground and then back down. Okay? We're pressing up to that standing position. Our goal is to not lock the knee out. It is to feel that buoyancy in the knee to lift us upwards and then set us back down. Okay? Two more of these on this side. Good. And relax. Shake it out a little bit. And over to the other side. So right foot is that kickstand behind us. We're focused on the left foot. We're going to lower that right knee to the ground a little bit. Press up. Maybe we keep both feet on the ground to start, just as we feel that press of the foot bring the upper body upwards. And then we might start to feel a little bit of that float of the back foot. Not essential, just an option for us. Now everything is pretty square on here right now, so it's unlikely that we're going to feel a lot of that side to side. If we're particularly weak in our internal or external rotation, or not comfortable with balancing, then yeah, you're probably gonna fall or teeter a little bit side to side. But use that previous exercise to help you orient. Let's do this as our last one. And relax. Okay. So this is our first orientation, our first exploration of that push. Basically, I just want you to think about driving the feet into the ground and then really exploring the sensation of what is happening in the foot, to give some feedback to understand how to keep you into a balancing position, or just explore where you might be weak. Our next thing is going to be all of our core work. So this is going to be kind of some silly and slow exercises because we're really trying to connect feet back to core. I've already started to try to implement this, but I'm going to be a little bit more intentional here. So in a narrow stance position, so feet are about hip width apart, we're just going to be doing some squats in this. So we're going to bring the arms out wide, And as we exhale, I want you to close the arms in, round the back, press through the feet, pull everything back in towards the core. Inhale, open up, stand back up. Exhale, down. Inhale up. To turn to the side, I want you to see some of that arching of the back. We exhale down, round the spine, almost like you're doing a cat pose. Pull the chin towards the chest. Inhale back up. You might find that you really add into the quads here as you pull through the front line. If we get all this tension into the core, it's going to pull against the quads too. They're going to get to work a little bit more. So rounding down. Open up with the inhale. Two more of these. Try to make the core work more and more for you each time. And back up to standing. And release. So your next one is going to be playing a little bit with the side to side motion. So we're going to do this sweeping back and forth, kind of like some skier lunges, if you will. So let's say we start on your right foot. Our goal is to just start with the toes on the ground. Really whatever position works for you. A little bit of that rounding of the spine, and then we're gonna step it through nice and slow over to the other side. And as you pull that right foot in, I want you to pull it back into the core, lifting the knee up. So now maybe you get that toe off the ground, and then switch it over. A little sweep to the other side, switching the arms, pull the knee up, rounding the spine. Side to side, nice and slow. These don't need to be big steps. I just want you to notice how the core adapts, how it pulls back in. That's where all of our stability comes from. Now, when we are applying our proper balancing positions, we're really not going to be rounding the spine that much. But even just a micro thought of that pull in can really help us organize the body in space so we can get a bit more stability out of our standing balance. Let's do 2 more on each side. You might try to stand more and more upright for these as we properly shift towards a balancing position as you lift that foot off the ground. Again, if it needs to stay on the mat, it's totally fine. Balance is the effect of this practice, not the requirement for it. Good, and relax. Okay, so just to bring us back to our core, every practice that we do is always going to come back to our core when we're thinking about balance. So how are you using the core to stabilize the posture, to help press through the feet and lift the body up? Our final concept is going to be understanding proprioception. So in yoga we call this Drishti. Science knows it as proprioception. So proprioception is really where the gaze goes, and our eyes have a lot to do with how we find balance. I like to think that if I'm standing here and I'm looking straight down in my mat, I've now drawn this little circle around my body here, and that's the space that I'm really balancing within. I'm looking straight down to that. If I start to lift my gaze, extending outwards, well, now my circle of balance becomes a lot larger, and I'm able to maintain that balance. It's not always directly what happens. In yoga, we talk about finding our drishti. So in the distance, we find a point that we can attach our gaze to, because where the gaze goes, that's kind of where we will go as well. The eyes help kind of drive us forward, but they also drive us into stability and balance as well. So if we're looking forward, we find that position in the distance, and we can really attach our gaze to, latching on, sending all concentration to that point. It helps to spread that circle out even further, and then we even get like a bit of an energetic pull backwards. So we're tethering outwards really far to say, okay, this is what I'm going to balance on, using all of the mechanics of the legs to create that balance. And then this is also, Drishti is about the development of the energy of command. It's when we find that position in the distance, that point that we're attaching the gaze to, we're telling the body to say, you're going to be steady, you're going to be still, you are going to be balanced. If we get into a balancing pose and the whole time you're saying, I can't do this, I'm not balanced, well, you're just creating your own prophecy for yourself to lose that balance. And when you do lose the balance, you're like, well, of course I lost the balance. I don't have any balance. So sending that gaze out is not just looking for that point and attaching to that point. It's also giving you the confidence to build that balancing posture for yourself. So when you get up there and you're looking into the distance and you're saying, okay, this is that point of attachment that I'm going to hold my attention to, that holds all of my concentration, that holds all of my balance, and I am balanced, I am secure, I am stable there. So we're going to start to find our first balancing postures, actually playing with that point. So the first posture that we're going to do is a simple just knee bend balance. So just to kind of understand what it is, we'll have a foot on the ground, we'll bend at the opposite knee, and I like to, if possible, hold on to that knee. And this is kind of the end point of where we're seeking to find our balance for our first position. So you might already be exploring that, and totally good. So start on your right or left, whatever is appropriate for you, and feel a bit of that buoyancy from the knee back to the hip, okay? Press the whole foot into the ground. Just a little exploration. Feel side to side in the foot. Feel a little bit of forwards and backwards onto the heel even. Okay, nice and stable. I like to lean a little bit forward as I start building this posture. In time, you will not need that as much. Okay, so as we build it, we lift that knee. You might start with just one hand around the knee or both, or maybe even getting to this point is really challenging and you're just toes tapping on the ground as you find that drishti in front of you to stabilize and balance. Okay, we'll relax, come back to center. Okay, and then we're going to transition over to the other side. So we're going to do all of these twice together. So this first time is just a bit of exploration. Again, you want to feel that left foot, if that's where you're at, firmly pressing down in the ground. Maybe a slight lean forward just so you're shifting that center of gravity in the body. And then just start lifting the toes off the ground through that buoyancy of the leg. I'll grab a hold of the knee if it is comfortable for you. Find that drishti in front of you. Attach your gaze outwards. Feel balance here. And then we'll relax. Okay, one more time on each side. So hoping that you're getting a little bit further up this time, maybe grabbing a hold of that knee firmly. When you're in this position, once you have a hold of the knee, whether it's one hand or both, you can feel that knee pressing into the hands a little bit, and then this can help pull in and drive back to the core. I want you to find that right foot balance again, nice and slow, building yourself up. If you're still bouncing on that toe, perfectly acceptable. Or just exploring balance today. This takes a long time to master for some, And then we'll find, even though we feel confident in it, we go to it the next day and we have no balance whatsoever. So here, just feeling that hands around the knee if you're at that point, and use it to pull back towards the core as you press the knee away. And then drive and push down through the right foot, finding that Drishti in front of you. Breathe. Try to find that sense of weightlessness that comes from balance. And even if you start swaying side to side, you know the mechanics of the foot now to help you find that balance before you fall out of it. Slow release. And then make your way to the other side. Firm in the left foot. Buoyancy in the left leg. Draw it back to the core. Find the Drishti. Hands to the knees if that's where you're at. Feel a bit of that tension between the knees, the tether of the arms back to the core. And just notice, what is the foot doing? How can you maybe apply a little bit more of that arch or balance side to side or even front to back? And slowly release. Okay, so this is our first version of our standing balance. The reason we start here is because the hips stay neutral the whole time. So bringing us into this flexion is a pretty comfortable position for the body to be in, and it's why I like to start there. But our most common balancing posture is probably going to be tree at the beginning of our practice. So finding tree is going to bring us through external rotation of the hip. And you can even see some of what the tendencies of the posture will be as I did that, is to really open out this way. But we're going to build it nice and slow, finding the mechanics of tree pose as we go. So starting first with that right foot. Stabilizing through the right foot, a little bit of buoyancy in the legs. And then just toes, toe mound on the ground. You can have hands on the hips, you can have hands at heart center, you can have hands out to the side. I don't really care what the arms are doing right now. Just exploring the beginnings of our tree. And then I want you to open up through the knee so that toe mounds are still on the ground and heel is against the ankle. As you press that knee out, I want you to pull the pelvis towards the belly button to use the core a bit here. Thinking a bit of our Pada Bandha, our foot lock, as we grab a hold of the ground with the right leg. This is what our majority of our stability is going to be coming from. But we're also going to use the left foot and that idea of Pada Bandha a little bit. So as we slide the foot, so now it's only toes just touching the ground, the foot mostly against the right ankle, I want you to think about pressing that left foot into the right leg. And this will help you torque that left knee out and pull back towards the core. Okay? And we're going to release there. We'll go up further the next time. Prep for the other side. Left foot firmly planted. Right toes are just resting on the ground. Hands on the hips, heart center, off to the sides. Find that position for you. And pull back to the core. Press through the left foot. Then I want you to open that knee. Press through the knee. Pull back through the pelvis to the core. Apply Pada Bandha in both feet, pressing through the left, and then the right foot can maybe firmly come up against the ankle. You can still use that Drishti, that reaching gaze to focus the body and mind. release. After we get established in our tree pose, even all the way down at the bottom, this becomes the basic structure that we will build regardless of where we get to in the rest of our posture. Whatever the arms are doing, wherever the foot lands on the leg, doesn't really matter. After you feel that press of your standing leg, the open of the left, and the press of the left foot, drawing everything back towards the core. I like to think about my pant line as the point where the tree meets the earth, the horizon, and below this is all roots. So the roots are really reaching downwards, the trunk is building us up, building back to that core, and eventually we get branches in our tree as well. So coming back over to the right side, nice and firm through the right foot. Start with just the toes on the ground, the knee forward. When you're ready for it, you open up, and then when you're ready for it, the whole foot comes against the ankle. There's no rush to get there, just building you back to that original position. So at this point, you might find this is comfortable. You have pretty stable balance here. Then I'd want you to bring the foot to the calf. Now this becomes a little bit more challenging, not incredibly so, but we still want to think about opening up through that knee and pulling back through the pelvis, through the core. And notice if you teeter side to side, how do you use the foot to activate the opposite side? The last stop for the legs might be bringing that left foot all the way up to the thigh. I am not a fan of putting the foot on the knee. It's not something I recommend. If you want to do it, go for it, but not something I would do. Still the same mechanics here. You're opening that knee to the side, pulling the pelvis in. A little bit of trick for this foot is instead of placing it straight down, is that there's just an ever so slight tilting of the toes forward or backwards from the ankle. So it might be that the heel is kind of back a little bit more, the toes slightly more forward, or the reverse. Toes back, heel more forward. Really doesn't matter. It's whatever feels comfortable for you. This just gives you a bit more surface area to work with. So take another moment to explore on this right side. Find that drishti, find that balance. And very frankly, I often just land at the calf for this balancing position. I don't need to get the foot all the way to the thigh. My hips aren't always feeling flexible enough for that. So just staying there, this position is about balance, not about the deepness of the flexibility that you can reach. A slow deconstruction of the posture once we've finished, releasing the hands, releasing the foot, shaking it out if you haven't already, getting ready for the other side. Left foot firmly planted, build up to that starting position. Toes on the ground, knee out to the side, foot against the ankle. I'll talk a lot less on this side because I've really said everything I need to from the right. Experiment at the calf. Maybe try to see if you have the flexibility, the foot against the thigh. This side almost never works for me. Sometimes I'm lucky though, but not today. Again, it's about finding balance, not about the deepest stretch. You can still get plenty of activation even with the toes on the ground. We want to build those muscles up, those muscles of endurance. And we do that by being in the posture, not constantly falling out of it. The falling out of it helps teach us that we went either too far or we didn't engage appropriately. And then eventually you can talk and move your arms and look all over the place and still stay in balance while you're holding your tree pose, but we take time to get there. A few more breaths. If you're ready to, you come out. I can already feel my feet getting a little tired from some of these balancing practices. It's one of the first things on me to always tighten up. After you've deconstructed, we'll build our final posture, which is going to be just a beginner dancer pose. This brings the leg into a little bit of extension, so this is a back bend, but we're not really seeking out a ton of the back bending aspects of this posture yet. So to just look at it to see what it is. So same mechanics, we find that balance in our standing leg, and then we will bend the knee and grab a hold of the foot. So if I was on my right leg, which I am, and I bent my left knee, I will grab a hold of it with my left leg. I like this to start because then I use my other leg to teeter. This is really what we are seeking today, just holding this position. I'll give an option when we come into it the second time if you want to go a little bit deeper into it, but again, slow and steady today is what's really going to win the race for this leg balance. So firm in that right foot, building that balance all the way back to the core. And then when you're ready, you can start to extend and bend that left leg, grabbing a hold of the foot or the ankle with the left hand. So even though this knee is reaching back, with the hand supporting the foot, you can almost think about pulling the knee into, like pulling it back towards this position, even though we're back here. And this will supply a little bit of engagement through the front of the core. We can relax, prep for the other side, firm in that left leg, find that buoyancy. And then when you're ready, extend that right leg back, grab a hold of the foot. Think about pulling that knee forward to supply a little bit of engagement through the core. And notice how far does the knee just kind of like lift off from the other knee, or can you try to keep it kind of right in line with the opposite knee? And we'll release. Okay, last time, this time for a little bit more options for engagement. Okay, so right foot again. When you're ready, bring yourself into that base position, grabbing hold of the left leg. I like to bring right hand to heart center to start, because we're going to start to hinge a little bit forward after reaching the arm up. So in this position, with a foot and hand against each other, there's a little bit of pressure between those points. The foot presses into the hands, and you can feel pretty naturally how this leads us towards a bit of a back bend, opening up the shoulder as well. With your opposite hand, I want you to reach the right arm up. So you're just pressing through left foot, reaching through right hand, finding that Drishti point in front of you. And then your next option is just a micro hinge forward, and feel balance at each point. We are not rushing into a really deep hinge. I want you to press through the foot, hinge at the hips, press through the foot, hinge at the hips. And maybe you only get just a little bit into it. Maybe you're only just feeling that press and reach of the hands. And then we can relax and shake it out. And we'll prepare for the other side. Left foot firm and planted, get you into that base position. Right knee bends, grab a hold of the foot. Again, you can bring hand to heart center if it feels appropriate for you. And then just start to feel that foot press into the hand, extending the leg back a little bit here, opening the shoulder. Find balance at each point. When you're ready, left arm extends up towards the sky. And then you can experiment a little bit of a hinge, a little bit more press, a little bit of a hinge, a bit more press. Nice slow release. And relax. So that is the extent of the balance that we will do today. We're going to go through about 3-4 exercises just for some extra leg strength. So what we've learned from our balance is that we want to find that press. Where is the press coming from? Is it coming from front arch, side arch? And how can we help to interact with those arches that are feeling particularly weak to press through them to apply more balance? Then, how do we bring that connection of the foot all the way back to the core? That's both feet, regardless of where they're at in space. Even in that dancer pose, we can kind of think about this foot still applying a bit of that pada bandha, but now it's through the top of the foot pressing into the hand to help pull all of that engagement back to the core. And then our last point is proprioception. Where are we looking? Are we looking straight down? We're gonna probably tumble a little bit more quickly there. Are we starting to look out? And then also within that proprioception, how confident do we feel, and how can we give ourselves more confidence by telling ourselves that we are balanced, we are stable. Even if we fall out of it quickly, we still want to tell ourselves that we are balanced, that we are stable, because we will build that in time, and then you'll be able to float in all of your leg balancing postures in time. So we're going to do a little bit of strengthening for the legs now. I want you to come into a nice wide stance. So we'll do right foot forward, left foot back, and I want you to have the heel on the ground. The back toes are at about a 45-degree angle. We're going to open the hips up, so we're kind of building warrior 2 here. Straight leg to start. You might be a bit wider than you normally would be in your warrior 2 because we're just going to be pulsing in and out. Doing some warrior 2 lunges. So with the hips nice and open, I want you to bend into that front knee and back out, okay? I'm just going to do 8 of these on each side. While you do this, try to keep the knee, that front knee, tracking over the second or third toe, and try to keep that left hip open. Two more. Good. We're going to turn to the other side. Keep those hips nice and open here. Bending into that left knee and straightening. Two more. And relax. Turn it back to the front. We're gonna rapid fire through these a little bit. So this time we're thinking about our warrior 1. So I want you to have the hips squared more forward. That doesn't mean that back foot really moves at all from that warrior 2 style position, but hips are just a little bit more forward. Hips are definitely squared towards the short edge of your mat. We're gonna come forward and back. Continue to press through the outside of that back foot while you come down. And then, like our balancing, pull it back towards the core a little bit. Two more. Still keeping that knee tracking over the second or third toe. Good. Turn it to the other side. Hips square to the other short end of your mat. And then down and up. So when you come into this lunge, you might feel a bit of a stretch along that right hip, which is nice, kind of what we're seeking here. do one more. Good. And relax. Fully relax this time. Next movement is going to be a big one. Okay. So we're going to do lots of transitioning forward and backwards on our mat. We're going to land right foot kind of in the middle of our mat. And we're going to be doing forwards and backwards lunges. So we'll start with a forward. So hips are staying square the whole time. Both feet are going to be square towards the front. So you're going to be stepping that left leg forward. I want you to lower the knee towards the ground, come back up through standing, and then back. Your foot should always be on the mat. Okay. Back and forth here, and you might just be lowering down a little bit. You might bring that foot back and just feel, whoop, yep, that's enough, and then shift it forward. Or you might be able to drop that knee all the way to the ground. If you need to stop midway to tap the foot, totally fine. 2 more forwards and backwards. Last one back. And relax. Over to the other side. Right foot leads, forward, and back. Two more times in each. Last one. And relax. Shake it out. One more exercise for you. Or come into a nice wide stance. Toes are at least at a 45-degree angle, maybe more if you're feeling like you can bring yourself almost to that full 90. Hands on the hips, gaze right in front, pull towards the core, and we're going to lower the hips down and straighten back up. Back, down and up here. Try to feel the knee is opening as you go down and staying in that open position. Two more. Last one on this, we're going to hold. Drop down. Feel that support through the legs. Feel that pelvis pull up towards the chin. 3, 2, 1. And relax. All the way to the ground. Let's rest in a child's pose for a little bit before we close our class out. Take your time getting there. Bring the knees apart. Let the body rest against the earth. Feel the breath deepen. seated posture. Maybe on your shins or in a cross-legged position. Let's close our class by chanting Om Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May you be blessed with radiant joy, peace, prosperity, and abundant health. Om Shanti.